Welcome back to the Drivers Hub and welcome to our 100k special with the Polo GT. Of course, we weren't going to do a Polo for our 100k special, so we have these two over here today. B58 versus S58, solid roof versus a drop top, twin turbo versus single turbo. For our 100k special, we wanted to find out which two-door BMW sports car is the king and which one is for you. Let's talk about the setups both of these cars are running. We'll start with the Z4 M40i. Now, if you're a BMW fanboy, you know that the 40i badge means that it gets the B58 motor, 3 liters, turbocharged inline 6. It's mated to a ZF 8-speed gearbox, but this is not X-drive. This is rear-wheel drive, which makes it a proper sports car. This thing roughly makes around 335 to 340 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. And yeah, all of that power going to the rear wheels, which that means you can basically do slides for days. But if you really want to do slides for days, it doesn't get much better than this. This is the new M2 and it's powered by the S58 motor. This is a twin turbocharged 3-liter inline 6, and yeah, this is one of the best engines to ever come out of BMW. This is also rear-wheel drive, and this particular car is with the ZF 8-speed as well. It makes around 453 horsepower, but we know that BMW kind of downplays the numbers, so realistically, you're looking around 470 horsepower and 550 Newton meters of torque. Now, unlike its elder brothers, you don't get this thing, at least until now, in X-drive, so that means this thing is insanely tail happy, as you've already seen from some of the shots. Now, even though this isn't a proper M car, the Z4 is a little bit more special than your normal BMW because, of course, this is the only proper two-seater that you can currently buy in the BMW lineup. So most of the panels inside are very unique to this car, and of course this is a drop top, so you can put down the top whenever you want, and you have all of the wind deflectors and everything in this car. You have one at the rear, one in the front, and you of course have your rollover protection hoops at the rear as well. And the Z4 looks like a very sexy car, honestly, but the interior doesn't have much going on in terms of specialness though. It's a blacked out interior. You get these special seats that you don't get in many BMWs, but overall, if you've driven a 3 Series or a 5 Series or something of that sort, this is very similar to that, but of course, no roof. Again, with the G87 M2, the interior is not that different compared to any other BMW in the current lineup. This is the updated one, so you get iDrive 8 and a couple of different other features which the Z4 doesn't get. But yeah, if you look at it from afar, it looks like a 3 Series interior in that sense. But once you start looking at the small details, that's when you know this is a proper M car. First of all are the seats. Now, these aren't some crazy bucket seats, but they're M2 specific seats, so you get this double color on each side, and of course you have the M2 logo over here in the middle. Then you get this M specific shifter in the middle, which has your gear shift aggressiveness button, park button, and of course the M logo in the middle. This has completely changed as well. If you've seen a 340 or something, these 3 buttons are for Eco Pro, Comfort and Sport. In an M car, therefore your M modes, setup and an exhaust button. Onto the steering, of course, it looks very similar to the one in the M340i or any other M Sport steering wheel in fact. But small differences, like I said, you have the M stitching on the inside, and of course this being an M car, you have the M1 and M2 buttons, which look very tempting to press, but I don't think I'm going to be touching them in today's drive. And once you go onto the door card, you also have this little trim over here with the M colors inside. But yeah, overall, if you look at it from afar, it looks like any other BMW interior. But once you start looking up close, that's when you know you're sitting in something special. Now, talking about the design, well, both of these cars don't look even a tad bit similar. They're completely different in terms of their design. Let's start off with the M2. Now, I know the new M2 is very controversial with its looks. Not a lot of people really like it, and if you do like it, you either love it or you hate it. I mean, there's no in between as far as I know, and I am on the love kind of side. I really love the way this new G87 M2 looks. I think this boxy shape and these flared arches and everything really hark back to the older style of BMWs. Even though it's not in the most graceful way, it does kind of give you that retro nostalgic look. And in terms of proportions, I think so they've always nailed the M2. Even the F87 chassis was amazing to look at. This is no different. The proportions are absolutely phenomenal, and especially since this is the M car, you get fender flares both front and back, and of course you have these huge nostrils up in front, and you have the power dome as well over here in the middle. The back end looks very aggressive. You have quad exhaust tips at the back, and if you want to make it look even more aggressive, a little M style rear spoiler will also look fantastic. Coming on to the Z4, well, I think so this design is now a little old now. I think it's been 5-6 years since it's come out, but it still has aged pretty well. You get this hexagonal nostrils up in front. If I'm not wrong, these are the updated headlights as well. And overall, it's just a very sleek and sexy looking car. This is much more aggressive, muscular, and in your face, whereas this is very elegant in that sense. Comment down below what you think is the better looking of the two. If you ask me, I really love the way this thing looks, especially in black. So this is a car that I have been wanting to drive for the longest time. This is the new G87 M2, and this is supposed to be one of the best cars BMW has ever made. Now, we've been crying in front of BMW India to give us a media vehicle. They didn't give it to us, so we had to go out of our way and find one ourselves. Now, this means that I can basically say whatever I want about this car, even if it's good, bad, doesn't really matter. But the thing is, I drove it and it's so good that I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Maybe just the fact that it doesn't look the best, but that's a completely subjective thing. As for the driving experience, well, this is a literal roller coaster of a ride. Now, if you remember, when I had come at the start of the year, I had driven a M4 competition that was a tuned car, but the same generation as this M2. And that completely blew my mind, and I was in love with the way that thing drove. This will make you shit your pants because this is only rear wheel drive. Anywhere near full throttle, and this thing is, this thing just wants to pop its tail out and just give you a big old slide. And as much as I want to do it, I'm not going to do it because it's not my car and this road is extremely narrow. Once you put your foot down, that S58 engine just gives you all of the power in the world, and I'm not even in sports yet. So how about we click the M1 button, because M2 is basically bat crazy, and the owner, if you don't know, is Chetan. He is a Formula 4 race car driver. He's in all of the major leagues over here in India. So it's pretty apt for him to have a car like this, and M2 is basically for him, and all of the slidey shots and everything are done by him. So if you want to see that and see more of it and see his amazing skills, do check him out on Insta. Till then, I'm gonna click M1. We're in full on sports. We'll put everything in sport as well. Yep, the gearbox is in its most aggressive setting, and let's see what this thing can do. Oh my god. And the brakes on this thing are absolutely insane. This thing is smaller and lighter than the M4 that we drove, so the brakes in that were insane, but this is even crazier. And this thing just wants to pop its tail out in each and every bend. And that's what makes this thing so exhilarating to drive. I mean, the thing is, it's so snappy, it's so unpredictable to an extent that, well, you need to be on your A game to drive this thing hard. And I don't even have traction off right now. I don't even want to touch that button. That's how scared I am that I will lose this thing, and there's literally no runoff over here. If I lose it, I'm basically off of the cliff. And I don't think anyone wants that. We have a cool little straight. Oh my god. That was insane. But once this thing hooks up, it's on rails. And the front end of this thing is so sharp. I mean, it is amazing to drive. One of the best sports cars I've driven in a while. Bit of a different setup as to what I'm used to with the B58. I've driven the B58 in the 340i, X3 M40i, 840i, X740i, X540i. So the B58 is a very widely used engine in the BMW lineup. But I think if you want it in the spiciest way possible, the Z4 M40i is the way to go. Short wheelbase, two-seater sports car with a 3-liter inline 6. Yup, that is a recipe for having fun. Now, I've driven both of these cars before I did the talking shots, and I have to say, the difference between a full-fledged M car and an M Lite like the Z4 M40i, the difference is massive. I mean, first and foremost, you can feel the difference through the gearbox. The gearbox in this is smooth, you know, it doesn't jerk on upshift, and it's not dramatic in that sense. It's a very smooth driving experience, and I'm fully cranked up to the max in this thing. I'm in Sport Plus, I'm in manual shifting, and it's just a very smooth experience. The M2 is basically out there to kill you. I mean, the upshift, it gives you a jerk, you know, it's aggressive. Yeah, it's just much more aggressive. This, on the other hand, yeah, you can drive it very sedately if you want, but whenever you want to have fun, just click down the paddles, let the B58 sing, which in, first of all, my opinion is the better sounding of the two by a mile, and you have a very pure and just a very soothing sports car experience. I don't think you need to go flat out in the Z4 to have fun in it. Whereas in the M2, it feels kind of boring at slow speeds, but once you crank up the wick, yeah, it goes completely berserk. Whereas this, yeah, I don't want to go full throttle, I just want to hear the engine. And what an amazing engine this is. The B58 is so smooth, it's so linear, and yeah, it's just a much more enjoyable engine to drive with, if you know what I mean. The S58 is balls out power, aggressive, full race car stuff, whereas this, yeah, it's chill. I don't really want to go ham in it. But if you do want to go ham in it, this engine and this car will quickly remind you that this is one of the best engines produced by BMW in recent times. The B58 is no joke. I'm pretty sure all of y'all have already seen that people are making 1,500 horsepower out of this engine. So yeah, this engine has loads of personalities. If you want it to be insanely fast, killing supercars, you can do that. But if you want to just have a chilled cruiser, it does that pretty well too. Now, in terms of driving, the immediate differences, like I said, the gearbox, the steering, the brakes, those are the major differences that you see first off. And brakes especially, because the M2's brakes are insane. I mean, the straightaway where I just pinned it, I was at least doing 20 to 30 kilometers an hour more than the Z4 because I just had so much more confidence in the brakes. Whereas in this, I let off a little earlier and I rolled into the brakes instead of just stomping on them. And that's the difference between a proper M car and a car like the Z4 M40i. Not to say it's not a great car, but you can just feel that little bit of a difference between an M car and this. But even for this, so nice to drive. And again, like the handling and everything is on point, and you just feel connected to the road, and yeah, it's just a whole bunch of fun. And of course, slow down a little, get it into its speed, and of course you can take the top down. And once you do that, the experience just goes up another notch, and that is something the M2 can't really do. So what is the verdict? The fact that a race car driver owns this BMW M2 tells us most of the story. The M2 is a pure-blooded, thoroughbred sports car. If you want to go even more pure, you can opt for the 6-speed manual, but trust us, the ZF gearbox pairs up really nicely with the S58. You need to be a proper driver to drive the M2 in anger with assists off, or else it will chew you and spit you out. Moreover, to have fun in the M2, you need to be really driving it hard, or else it just feels like an uncomfortable, super stiff two-door BMW. Whereas the Z4 is a car of many personalities. It too is a proper sports car, but does the job of a roadster very nicely too. Moreover, you don't need to be hammering it down a canyon road to have fun in it, and the B58 is much more enjoyable to listen to. A big thank you to Chetan Surineni for letting us shoot his cars, and definitely give him a follow on Instagram to be up to date on his racing career. A big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to us over the years. It has been an incredible journey to 100,000 subscribers. Follow us on Instagram and comment down below which one of these two cars would you pick, and I'll catch you in the next one.